3, 2, 1. All right. All right. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. My name is Otis Landerholm. I am the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. I'm also the host of the Empowered Immigrant Podcast and the Empowered Immigrant Live show. All right. So welcome to the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thank you so much for being here. Today our topic is, what documents do I need to carry so ICE doesn't arrest me? All right. What documents do I need on me? Right. And I hope that this is useful content, and welcome, and thanks everyone for being here. So remember, the Empowered Immigrant Live is here to train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to make the most out of immigration laws and to make the most out of their lives. Today our theme is, what documents do I need to carry so that ICE doesn't arrest me? All right? And my question, and so we'll talk about that, and my question is, hey, do you want to figure out a way to protect yourself? Do you want to figure out what the best option is, what the best strategy is, what the best response would be, what the best strategy is to fight for your case, to defend your ability to stay in the United States, to maximize your chances to fix your immigration status so that this whole thing of immigration law can be behind you and so that you can make the most out of your life for the future, all right? Because if so, I'd love to help you with that, all right? My law firm is here. We are on a mission to win 10,000 cases in the next 10 years. We would love for your case to be one of them. And thank you to everyone for being here. And whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, welcome, all right? And thank you so much for being here. As I'm talking, if you have questions, please submit your questions. I'll do my best to answer them, all right? And we'll do this episode in English, and then we'll do it in Spanish. And so, it's the end of January. Trump is back. The Laken Riley Act has passed into law. ICE is getting started, right? ICE is getting started. They're knocking on doors. They're detaining people. All right? Just to review some of the key changes that have happened just in the last 10 days, right? Trump has been in office for only 10 days. And there have been 46 different executive orders signed. 7 of them have to do with immigration. The military is heading to the south border. There's been a national emergency declared at the border. The CBP-1 app has ended. The Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, Venezuelan parole program has ended. All right. The refugee admissions program has ended. They're trying to increase expedited removal to the full extent possible. Trump has fired some top immigration judges, sent a signal to the immigration court judges. Congress has passed and Trump signed into law the Laken Riley Act. Trump on Wednesday rescinded TPS for Venezuela. They've set a goal for ICE to detain. Right now they're at about 1,500, between 1,200 and 1,500 detainees per day. They have set a goal of getting that number up to 1,800 people detained per day in the country, which is crazy. All right, and that's what's happening. And so, then it's overwhelming, and it's important for us to stay together, and it's important for us to come together. And so thank you for taking time out of your schedule and being here with me right now. And I hope you're taking care of yourself through this, right? It's going to be a stressful time. There's a lot of anxiety just looking at the news. You might consider turning off the news, forget about it, and take care of your mental health. So, and, you know, I also want people to be empowered, right? This is the Empowered Immigrant Live. So I want people to be empowered, which means I want you to know what your rights are. I want you to have a game plan. I want you to be prepared for the worst. So if it comes, you've got a plan, right? That's part of being empowered. And so some of this is I want to discuss what documents you ought to have and what documents you ought to carry with you. And this is just my opinion, right? This is, I'm one of many immigration lawyers. I am a certified specialist in immigration law. But I want to share my opinion as to what documents you should carry. And just know that if ICE wants to arrest you, they might, right? Even if you show certain documents. Like there's nothing in what I'm going to say, kind of my disclaimer here, is yes, it's wise to have copies of certain documents with you that you can show if somebody asks, hey, where are your immigration papers? Somebody from law enforcement asks that. But you also want to think about, hey, how would I respond in that moment? And what would I do if they actually did arrest me, right? And unfortunately, this is true for U.S. citizens too. Like there will be U.S. citizens that will get arrested during this administration. They'll be arrested incorrectly, right? But that will likely happen because as there's more enforcement, it's like there's going to be people that are violating people's rights, even U.S. citizens, right? And so you got to be aware of this. All right. So what documents should I carry? I'm going to give you my own 2 cents here. This is my own opinion. If you're a U.S. citizen, carry. I kind of hate to say this, but carry a copy of your passport or a copy of your birth certificate or your citizenship certificate that shows that you're a U.S. citizen. Like you might be wise. I actually told a family member, right? I told a family member who looks like an immigrant and who's really, really nervous right now and who is a U.S. citizen to have a copy of his passport, U.S. passport, in his glove compartment. All right? Color copy, showing that he is a U.S. citizen. Just in case he gets pulled over and they ask, what is that? He can show, hey, I am a U.S. citizen. Here's a copy of my passport. And so U.S. citizens, just like everybody else, will get stopped. And so you want to be mindful of that. If you're a green card holder, similarly, carry a copy of your green card. Okay? Front and back, current valid copy of your green card. If you're in valid non-immigrant status, or if you're in valid refugee or asylee status, like your asylum case was approved or your visa has been approved already, carry your EAD and also carry a copy of your approval notice. Okay, your I-797C notice of action approving your underlying case. If you are currently applying, you'll notice this depends. What documents you should carry depends on your situation, right? If you're currently applying or if you're in the application process for a visa, or you're in the application process for asylum, or you're in the application process of whatever it is you're applying for, all right? Carry a copy of your rights. We call it the little red card. You guys have these? All right, little red card. If you don't, feel free to reach out to our firm, all right? And we can email you a document with each of your rights. You want to carry a copy of your rights. You want to carry a copy of your receipt notices if you have them, all right? In some instances, it might make sense to have a letter from your attorney, okay? Explaining what you're up to. If you have an application pending, then you may not, right? You like immigration might still be able to detain you. All right? And if they do, you could still fight your case. But you just might need to think that through. You might need to discuss that with your attorney. okay? If you're undocumented and you have no lawyer and you have no good or clear options, like say you've done a consultation and it's like, it'd be risky to apply for anything, right? Then my best advice is that you carry evidence that you've been in the U.S. for more than 2 years, but remain silent as to your immigration situation. All right? Like if you carried tax returns for the last 2 years showing that you've been here in the last 2 years, I want to explain this. I want to explain this strategy. Okay? Trump is talking about expanding expedited removal. We don't want anybody to be expeditedly removed. We don't want anybody to be deported without the opportunity to see a judge. That's really bad. Okay? He's talking about expanding expedited removal for anybody to include people who have arrived less than 2 years ago. Okay? So if you have tax returns, hey, I don't have my documents, but I do have my tax returns, right? They don't say where I'm from. They say my name and that I've paid my taxes. All right? Like you might consider having a screenshot of that on your phone or having, or having some kind of evidence that you've been in the country for more than 2 years on your phone, right? But not necessarily having evidence of your place of birth. And you might want to remain silent as to that, right? Okay? All right. If you are undocumented and you also have a deportation order, all right, you are at the highest level of risk. If you're in that situation, the best advice is to 100% remain silent. Have the red card or whatever and just say, hey, officer, I'm sorry, but I prefer to remain silent. If the officer's like, well, I need to arrest you, okay, right? Okay, I understand, but I prefer to remain silent. I choose to remain silent. Everybody has a constitutional right to remain silent. Now, this is not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. It will not be, right? But that is the best advice. That is the best advice in terms of like, okay, thinking it through, what documents could I keep in my car? What documents could I keep on me so to maximize my chances of everything going well? The thing is like, imagine that someone says, hey, I prefer to remain silent, and now ICE arrests that person anyway, right? Well, why did they make that arrest? Did they make an arrest because they had probable cause? Because in order to make an arrest under the U.S. Constitution, an immigration officer and a law enforcement officer needs to have probable cause that there has been some violation of the law. And so it's like, okay, officer, what was the cause that led to that arrest? Tell me, right? And if the officer can articulate and can explain the reasons for that arrest, then, okay, then it'll be up to a judge to say, hey, did that arrest satisfy the requirements of the Constitution or didn't it? Assuming somebody has a lawyer that fights this type of case. What I'm talking about, this is what we call a motion to suppress. We want to suppress the evidence that came out of that arrest. Okay? And when we're fighting that type of case in immigration court, we've got to show that it was an unconstitutional, race-based stop. Meaning that the officer had no reason to arrest you, and they just used your appearance for their reason to arrest you, which is going to be happening. And if that happens, the best advice is to remain silent so that you don't give them a reason to have made that arrest that then undermines your own legal rights. Okay? Does that make sense? I think there might be some questions out there about that issue. Yep. There might be questions about that issue. All right, so send questions. YOLO you asked a really great question. You say, I don't understand why a driver's license is not enough. Perfect. All right? A driver's license is enough. Let me clarify this. A driver's license is enough if you're stopped by like highway patrol or by local law enforcement for a driving infraction. All right? A driver's license is not enough if you are stopped by ICE. ICE does not care whether or not you're allowed to drive. ICE cares about whether or not you're allowed to be physically present in the U.S. Does that help clarify that? All right. Like the states have the power to issue driver's licenses to people who are undocumented, which means that driver's licenses do not constitute legal status. Okay? California is a great example of that, right? California is a good state for immigrants because California state law grants undocumented immigrants the right to drive because they need to drive, right? And so because of that, though, ICE in the state of California doesn't care about your driver's license. They care about whether or not you have actual evidence of immigration status. Okay? Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about this topic. All right? And there's a lot of other topics we could go into, and we're going to need to revisit some of this as, in the days, weeks, and months to come. All right? But I want to open it up for questions. And so let me know what questions you've got. If you're just tuning in right now, my name is Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream. And my goal is, hey, if we've got that case, let's fight that case. And I want to maximize your chances of success. I want to maximize your chance of winning. All right? And that's where we're talking about, motions to suppress and the right documentation to have. Okay? All right, let me get into your questions. So Zaza Ranch, I see you there, or Wrench. Hope I'm saying your last name correctly. You say, good morning, thanks for the fantastic lives. What are my chances of getting an initial consultation scheduled with yours truly? Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for asking that. Give us a call. Give us a call. Our consultation schedule is packed right now. All right, so it kind of depends on how urgent you need it. But I think we're completely booked this week and next. But give us a call. Everybody that calls our office gets a free evaluation from my intake department, and just to make sure that you have a case that our office can help you with. And if so, then we can schedule the full-on consult with either myself or my attorney team. Okay. So Kiki, I see you there. Do you take cases in Kansas? Yes. Yep, we have done and won cases in Kansas. I don't think we have one currently in Kansas. I might be wrong about that, but we do have a case in Oklahoma right now, and we have several cases in Texas, and we've won. I've flown out and won cases in Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and other places, right? We have plenty of clients on the East Coast, Georgia, New York, New Jersey, other states, throughout the states, all right? So yes, we can certainly take cases in Kansas, depending on the type of case. Sometimes that makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't, but there are certain instances where it's like, gosh, it'd really be wise of you to have a lawyer that knows your judges locally. But depending on the type of case, feel free to give us a call. We'd love to meet with you. All right, think break. How is it legal for the DHS to raid a lawyer's office? I know, right? That's so bad. It's so bad. In my opinion, it's not legal. So the issue, though, is DHS has the power to go to any place that the public has the power to go, right? And so, in theory, but anyway, it's super offensive. It's just, it's crazy. Okay, so thank you for asking that. Think break. I appreciate you. AZ, I see you here. An Afghan came through the border, was paroled in, was granted asylum by a judge. Will it affect an I-730? No. If no, you're in a good place. All right. If you came through the border, you were paroled in, you were granted asylum by a judge. Good. You're in a good place. Okay, you're in a good place. And so, and the I-730, that's a winnable and approvable petition. It might be you might want to just make sure it's done very well, for your family members' sake. But no, that's a good case. Okay. Um, all right. Yep. Okay. Let's see. I'm seeing some other questions here. YOLO, I see your question. Turk666, I see your question. Thank you for that. Better respect my being born here. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Good. I'm glad. I'm glad that you come to it from that perspective. I also feel that way. TJM, your eyes are cute. Are you single? Thank you. Thank you for saying that about my eyes. I am not single. I am married, happily married. But thank you for being here and asking. I appreciate that. Cheyenne, do you work for people out of your state? I'm in Indiana. Yes. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we have clients in Indiana. Awesome Shagufta. What if you got bona fide in your U visa? Will we still get a deportation? What about your pets and your belongings? Yeah, that's a really great point, and that's a really great question. All right? ICE doesn't care about your pets, and they don't care about your belongings, but you do, right? Every person does. And so sometimes it's like thinking that through. Okay, if I were deported, who would I trust? Right? Who do I want my stuff to go to? Who could go to my bank account? Who could go to who could take care of stuff for me? Who could go to my boss and ask for my final paycheck if I were just like detained randomly? And so sometimes people can create what's called a power of attorney, right? We've done this for some of our clients. This can be sometimes people want this. Right? It's like, okay, if I were detained by ICE, then who would I grant the authority to take care of my finances while I'm detained? And you can do that by doing a simple power of attorney process. All right. So I could do a different training on that maybe in the future if there's interest in that. Okay. The pre-Mexican, that's a cool name. If someone self-deports, would they be able to acquire a tourist visa in the future? Probably not. Okay, probably not. The way it works is if a person has unlawful presence for more than a year, right? If you have more than 1 year of unlawful presence, and then if you leave the country, you're triggering a 10-year bar, meaning there's a 10-year inadmissibility. Okay? So in theory, you could apply for a tourist visa after 10 years, right? But that's a long time. Let's see, Kiki, I see you here. So if you refuse to show identification, like a Mexican ID, could you be taken to jail for sure for suspicion? If the law enforcement does it right, and if you haven't done anything to raise their suspicion, and if they ask for papers and you remain silent, right? If they say that they're going to arrest you, you could say, on what ground, officer, right? And sometimes if the officer's doing it correctly, maybe they would say, okay, fine, carry your ID in the future, type of thing, right? But that's the way it is, yeah. And so couldn't you be taken to jail for sure for suspicion? No. If the officer's doing it right, they might say, okay, well, please carry your ID on you for future references or something like that, because they might not have enough information to make that arrest. Okay, legally at least. Audrey, and some ICE officers will not care. right? They'll violate your constitutional rights and make that arrest almost like a power trip, you know. Audrey Girl Mama, if she is currently overstaying that visa, there is definitely a risk. Okay, well, yeah, good point, right? Anybody that's overstaying a visa is quote unquote deportable under the terms of the Immigration Nationality Act, right? That's what it means to have overstayed it, right? Doesn't mean you can't fix that though, right? We've done a lot of, I've won hundreds at this point cases for people who overstayed visas, right? So there are ways to fix it. Marriage to a U.S. citizen, for example, can fix it. Asylum can fix it. Other things, U visas can fix it. So let's see. At what level of risk is my wife for being arrested? She has a tourist visa only with a conditional residence application pending. Okay, Dang, thank you for asking that question. I would say she's at low risk. I would say she's at low risk, right? She's currently an adjustment applicant. She entered on a tourist visa. You know, if she doesn't have a criminal record, she's married to a U.S. citizen, I would say she's very, very, very low risk, all right? And if she got arrested, heck, she's eligible to adjust her status in front of an immigration judge, okay? And so, so it wouldn't be the end of the world. She's eligible to fight that case. Ticker the Talker, cool name. Isn't the driver's license in California different for illegal aliens, though? So thank you for that. Yes, it says the words federal limits apply in the top right corner, all right? But that doesn't mean that a person is necessarily undocumented, as you might think of that term. And so, yeah, the driver's license by itself is not good evidence of somebody's immigration status or lack thereof, okay? It just means that at the time of their application, they didn't have all of the like formal paperwork to satisfy real ID, right? Which is the law that was passed in 2005, got implemented. Anyway, that's a topic for a different day as well. Exclusive kennels, all right? Thank you for this. So do I qualify for a U visa? I came here when I was 6 years old. I'm 34 now, and I have a criminal record and something. I didn't see the rest of that. Do I qualify for a U visa? I don't know. You know, to qualify for a U visa, you have to have been the victim of a qualifying crime in the U.S., all right? You have to have cooperated in the investigation or the prosecution of that crime with law enforcement. You have to have been substantially harmed as a result of the crime, right? And you have to be, quote unquote, admissible or eligible for a waiver. And so, yeah, so we've, you know, if you have ever been the victim of any type of harm, abuse, crime, attack, assault, something bad happened to you while you were in the U.S., and if you called and filed a police report, etc., helped the authorities in the investigation of that, then yes, you could apply for a U visa. Okay? Hope that's helpful. Awesome Shagufta. I answered that one already. Okay, Cheyenne, let's see. Do you see in Florida that they tricked people to come to immigration office to get detained? Is that normal? They do this all the time, folks. They do this all the time. But I have a client who's detained right now. He was detained under Biden, actually, and they tricked him to go into immigration. Oh, this is just a routine check-in. We need to verify your information, and they detained him. All right, they lied to him, and then they detained him. This is very common. It's nasty, but it is. They do all kinds of tactics to do stuff like that, and it's legal. You can't, you know, it's nasty, but it's legal. Like it's legal to lie. You know, go figure. I mean, our president lies constantly, right? So, I guess that's par for the course. Kevin Lopez, ¿puedo obtener residencia en corte por asilo si tengo sometido al 42B y también VAWA y I-45? So can I get residence in court through asylum if I also have a E-42B pending and a VAWA AOS pending? Like, yeah, that's good. You know, yes, sí, eso sí es posible. Me suena que usted tiene representación legal y que está haciendo las cosas bien. All right? So, Kevin, it sounds to me like you're doing things right. It sounds like you've got a lawyer helping you. I hope they're doing a good job and maximizing your chances of approval on each one of those types of cases. But it sounds like you've got multiple cases that are already submitted in front of a judge. Like that's a good sign. Okay? So, T. Travi. I was granted asylum in 2000, but my employment card expired. Am I illegal? Good question. All right, good question. Thank you for asking this question. No, you are not. A grant of asylum is indefinite. All right, should I repeat this? If anybody has won an asylum case, you are permanently lawful in the United States. You are no longer undocumented. Everybody who has won asylum, who has a grant, your asylum case is approved, you have one status for the rest of your life unless the government moves to terminate your asylum status if you commit some particularly serious crime, if you return to your home country and avail yourself of the protections of that country. You know, there's a few ways to lose asylum status formally, but the government would have to put you in proceedings to take it away from you. So what has expired in your situation, T. Travi, what's expired is just your work permit. And your work permit, you should renew it. That's a good idea. But your status is indefinite. All right? It'll last forever. Okay? That's same for green card holders, by the way. If you have a green card, you have a green card forever, as long as you're still in the U.S. You can abandon it if you go outside the U.S. for too long, and that's a different topic. But if you're in the U.S. as a lawful permanent resident, it's permanent, folks. Just because the card expires doesn't mean you are undocumented. All right? You should renew the card, but your status does not expire. Okay? Got to know this stuff. All right. Illegals came here illegally. They have no constitutional rights. Jay Walt, you are very incorrect. You are very incorrect. All right? Thank you for saying that, but please learn that you are incorrect. The United States Constitution grants all people, all right, whether you're born here or not, grants all people certain constitutional rights, including the right to remain silent, including the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures, including the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty, right? Like, this is the way the Constitution actually works, okay? That's not an opinion, that's just the truth, okay? Dolfel Shea 22. If you're a J1 visa holder with a waiver pending and an I-130 and an I-45, but with an approved EAD, am I safe? Well, you have a J1 visa and you have a waiver pending. I got that. You know, you're more safe than most. You're more safe than most. Technically, you'd want to see, have you violated the terms of your J1 at all? If your J1 is still valid, then you're still in valid lawful immigration status. Okay? So there you'd be fine. Right now you're an adjustment applicant, so really you're protected by that in some degree also. All right? And so I think you're doing pretty good. I think you're doing pretty good. All right, Ronaldo Salmeron, do I need an I-601 waiver when I do the consular process? I was brought to the U.S. as a 5-year-old. I've had DACA since I was 15. I never let it expire. I don't have a legal entry. I'm married to a U.S. citizen. Yeah, this is a complex question. Talk it over with your lawyer. You have good arguments that you do not have unlawful presence. All right? You have good arguments that you do not have unlawful presence, so that you should not need an I-601 waiver of unlawful presence. But that's a complex and might be challenged situation. All right? So do the consular process, but just be aware of that situation. Like, we have done that and won that. All right, without a waiver. Okay, and so you should be okay. But some of these regulations are up for interpretation. Okay? So, Uriel Miramontes de Leon, the Laken-Riley Act is so confusing. What happens if you are in the process of adjusting status and you're considered admissible because of the petty offense exception. Marriage petition, the I-130 was approved. Yeah, I'm going to need to do a whole presentation about that, okay? Because that's a big question. That's an important question. It's brand new. We haven't seen how the Laken Riley Act is going to be implemented, all right, in that situation. Like, it's pretty clear that the petty offense exception doesn't apply in the text of the Laken Riley Act, okay? And so, so it sounds like some people will be subject to detention, but they're eligible for a green card, which seems like a total waste of everybody's time, effort, and money. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. All right. I'm actually also wondering that exact question of how that's going to be implemented for people in that situation. All right. Bereket Kidanel. I just lost my permit, my work permit a couple days ago. If I have copies of it, am I still in danger? I lost my work permit a couple days ago. If I have copies of it, am I still in danger? Well, it's better to have a copy of it than not, all right? And whenever anybody loses a work permit, the proper way to get the new one back is by filing a new I-765, and you check the box saying it's a replacement, all right? It's a replacement of the work permit. And so you can do that, and then you could at least have the receipts of the I-765 replacement application showing that you've gone through that process. Okay? We're doing good, and I need to start wrapping up. So let's see. I see Martha Morazan and Veronica Yonibelli and Levin Sar and Isaac Salazar. You guys are going to be my last 4 questions. All right? You guys are going to be my last 4 questions. So Martha Morazan, if I was a witness and I was involved in a qualified crime, but if I don't need a U visa, can we apply for my spouse? Would he also qualify for the waivers? Okay, good question. So in U visas, there is a concept called indirect victims. All right? So if your spouse was involved in some way, you were the victim of the crime, but maybe your spouse was supporting you, maybe your spouse was involved in some way, maybe your spouse even cooperated in some way with law enforcement, then your spouse, as an indirect victim, quote unquote, might be eligible to apply for the U visa. All right, even if you don't need it. And so that sometimes can happen. You'd want to feel free to give our office a call, feel free to schedule a consultation. We could look at that situation to see if we could do that for your spouse. Okay? All right, next is Veronica. I have a final order with a T visa pending. I have check-ins with ICE once a year and no criminal record. Is ICE coming after people with pending cases? So good question. You have a final deportation order. I mean, the T visa is pending. How strong is your T visa? I mean, the reality is yes, you have some risk, right? Immigration could, in theory, detain you, right? You have a final order of deportation. It's already signed by the judge. They could detain you. They could deport you, and they could say, come back after your T visa is approved, okay? And so that is possible. I hope that doesn't happen in your situation. I hope that there's no other reason that they might have interest in enforcing your deportation order. But you might, if you are nervous about that, you might consider talking to an immigration lawyer and see, hey, could we possibly file a motion to reopen your removal case so that that's there, and then you don't have a deportation order anymore if you could reopen it. Okay? Levin Sar, hello. If a person has a final order of removal, but they have a pending U visa and C-14 work authorization, is he still removable? Yes. Similar to Veronica's question with a deportation order and a T visa pending. A deportation order with a U visa pending, you are deportable, right? Because that U visa has not yet been approved. It's better if you have the C-14 work authorization. You can show that, all right? That's better than you've been granted at least some deferred action through that, and so that's good. But So it's better protection than nothing. But you got to know that in theory, immigration could still enforce that removal order. Okay? Then Isaac Salazar, if you have VAWA and a VAWA work permit, but you have a criminal record 33 years ago, does this new law affect you, the Lake and Riley Act? It's a good question, Isaac. I don't have the answer to that because the new law is brand new and we haven't seen how it gets affected in certain situations. If you are specifically nervous about it, you should talk to a lawyer. You should look at that criminal record carefully to make sure that that criminal record actually is covered by the Lake and Riley Act. There's only certain specific crimes that are covered by that act, okay? And if you have VAWA, right, even if you were detained, you could still fight your VAWA case, okay? So that's something to be aware of also. Ronaldo, I'm glad I answered your question. Thank you for being here. So do they send you right away? Do you have time to prepare if you're not from Mexico? So Universe 333, that's also a good question. No deportation is immediate, all right? So sometimes there's some time to, submit a motion, submit something, especially if you already have a lawyer working on your case, then sometimes that lawyer can get something in, right, to prevent a deportation, even if it's like an expedited removal case, although that makes it way faster, way tighter. All right, you guys, it is top of the hour. I've got to wrap up. I will do the same episode in Spanish in just a little bit. All right, so if you're interested in joining me in Spanish, join me then. Give me like 10 minutes or so, and we'll get started in Spanish. And thanks everybody so much for being here. If this was useful, if this was helpful, please give us a heart or a subscribe or a wave or a thumbs up on whatever platform that you're on, all right? Please subscribe to our channel. Please stay in communication with our office. We're here to help. We'd love to help, okay? And and if our office could help you with your specific immigration situation or a legal issue, please feel free to pick up the phone, give us a call. We're a phone call away, and we're here to serve. All right. So thank you everyone for being here. Let's stay in the fight and let's stay in communication. I also wanted to say that if you are a current client of my office, we have lots of our clients that watch these. If you are a current client of our office, today at 3 p.m. we are hosting a Defending Your Rights During Trump's Second Term webinar, all right? And so I invite you to join me today, 3 p.m. Check that out. You'll receive texts and emails about that if you are currently working with us, because I want you to know what we're working on behind the scenes, okay? So everybody, thank you all so much for being here. Again, my name is Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. And, it's crazy out there, folks. Stay real. Stay true to yourself. Nobody can take that away. You've got rights, all right? You've got rights. Use them. Remain silent. Don't open the door. I wish you all the very, very best, and we'll see you next time on our next episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thanks a lot. All right, take care. Bye-bye.